Today I'm going to show you all how to remove your driver side dash tweeter without removing the dash. This process is a lot simpler than you might think. There's a lot of forums that talk about how impossible it is. Today I'm going to show you how to do it the easiest way. The first thing you're going to want to do is move the steering wheel down as far as possible. Because you're going to have to remove the cluster in order to make sure there's enough room to remove the cluster, you need to move the steering wheel down. Next, you're going to want to remove the kick panel beneath the dash. There's 2 screws on each side, one here and another one over here. They're just standard Phillips head screws, so go ahead and remove that. The kick panel is held in by a couple of clips in the center, and you just need to peel it off like that. Now you can just move it out of the way. And the reason you need to remove this panel is so that later you can reach up in here to access the speaker connection to the speaker wiring harness. Next, you need to remove this little control panel and the coin tray. In order to remove the panel, first you can just open the coin tray and then pry it out with your hands and move it to the side. To remove the coin tray, you need to move the parking brake release lever out of the way, and you can see those 2 10mm washers that need to be removed. Just do that with a drill. I've removed the 2 washers, and now you can pull the tray out with your hand. All right, here is the view inside the coin drawer opening. This wiring connection right here that this flathead screwdriver is touching, that is the connection from the speaker wire itself to the speaker wiring harness. Now, normally this connection is actually held on by a clip back up in there that you can see right exactly where the flathead is pointing. That is where it originally was before I already replaced my speaker. So that's why I have it down here. Also, when you go to install your replacement speaker, you do not have to drape the speaker cable back that far. There is an AC vent that you can drape it over just up here, and that's why it drops down right here now. And it's perfectly fine. It doesn't get in the way of anything. And also, because you've removed this kick plate down here, you can reach up and grab any of the wiring in this area, as well as through the hole here. Now it's time to remove the cluster and the cluster bezel. The first thing you need to do is remove the 2 plastic screws that are in these 2 holes right here. And it's a plastic screw that's inside of a clip. And so what you may have to do is, while you're trying to unscrew, you may also need to use some sort of a pry tool or a small flathead screwdriver to sort of pry it away and unscrew at the same time. Next, you need to remove these 2 little panels on each side. Now, how you do that is simply with a pry tool. They pop out very easily. This one on this side doesn't have anything connected to it on the back. You can put it to the side. This one over here has this wiring connected to it. Just push it down and remove it. At this point, you can now remove the bezel itself. And you should always try and remove the bezel from the top first. And the way you have to do that, and it's going to be hard for me to show it on camera, but I'll describe it to you, is you need to sort of use your pry tool to get in there, and then with your other hand that's not using the pry tool, get your hand in there and just slowly try and pull it out. You can get your fingers in here in the back and try and pull it out that way. There's 3 clips that hold it in on the back side. You pull those forward first, then you pull these 2 on the bottom. Okay, at this point I've pulled all the clips out, and now you can just move the bezel out of the way with your hand, and it's easier because you had originally moved the steering wheel out of the way. But before you move the bezel completely out of the way, there is another wiring plug that you need to pull out from this side. All right, so you've pulled that out, wires there. Now you can completely move the bezel out of the way. Now it's time to remove the cluster itself. The cluster is held in by 4 standard size Phillips head screws, one up here, one down here, one over in this corner, and this one up here. Now, because these are sort of tucked away in spots where you could easily drop them if you don't have a magnetic drill bit, what I do is I like using a drill to remove these. And what I do is I remove them about halfway. So this one over here in the bottom left is now loose. And then I have this drill bit that has a magnetic end. It's actually designed for bolts or washers, but it's the right size to where I can connect it to the screw and just then pull it out or keep unscrewing it if needed, and I don't have to risk dropping it. And you do this for all 4, and then you can move the cluster out of the way. All right, at this point I've removed the 4 screws, and now you can easily just move the bezel out of the way. Before you can completely move it out of the way, you need to pull it out enough to where you can access this wire plug that you need to undo and move out of the way. All right, now the cluster is completely out of the way. And what you're going to see here, this is the main AC vent that goes to this small vent right here. And then you see this smaller sub vent that goes to this side over here, which connects over into the door. You do not need to do anything with this larger AC vent. This is the small vent that you need to move out of the way. Now, because I've already done this before, it's not on this clip, or I guess it's not really a clip, it's more of a rivet. And you can see there's a little tab that comes off of this sub vent. You need to use a pry tool and pry it off. And you can see that it connects, it has a female end that connects to another part of the sub vent back here. And we'll get to that in a moment. The other thing you're going to need to do is there's another tab like this that's back here, right here, where my 2 fingers are. You can feel it because I've already dealt with this in the past, so I've actually cut it, which is what I'm advising you to do. I'm advising you to take a box cutter knife and just cut through this way. And you'll be able to feel the tab. You don't have to worry about cutting into the vents themselves. You can just cut through the tab, and then you have free rein to move the sub vent out of the way. And the way that you're going to do that is you're going to, where this bend is right here, this natural bend in the vent is, you're going to pull down on that and try and pull it inward. This bend, pull it inward, and it will come off. The female end over here will come off the male end over there. This tab that holds the cluster in place gets in the way, so you just move it down and out of the way. Then what you do over on this side again is you bend it. You need to bend it inward so that you can pull it through the opening where the cluster was. You're going to need to bend it further to move it out of the way. And you can see the rest of the sub vent itself can be bent completely around and outside. And trust me, There's nothing wrong with the vent. You haven't bent it in any way that's going to damage it. There's no holes that are made. It will go back in place just as it was. And now that we've moved this vent out of the way, you can see the speaker. In order to remove this speaker, you need to take a 10mm wrench or ratchet bit and remove that nut over there on the left. At that point, you're going to have to actually break the tab that holds the speaker on the right side, because there's almost no way you're going to get to the nut over there. You really only need one tab in order to secure the speaker in place anyways. And there's plenty of room here to remove the speaker without having to adjust any of these other vents that are in this area. Once you've loosened the speaker from its position, then you can come and release the wire from the wiring harness. There is a release tab that is on the wiring harness end of the connection. And just as a reminder, the wiring harness is the side that has the tan foam around it. Here's another LS430 Mark Levinson dash tweeter. And just to give you a little bit of a visual understanding of what you're looking at inside the dash there, this is the position that the speaker sits at inside of the dash. This is the tab on the left that you loosened the nut off of and you moved it out of the way. And then what you basically have to do is, while this tab over here is still screwed in, you need to bend it downward from this side to break the tab. It will probably break somewhere around here. And then at that point you can just remove the speaker from its position. To put everything back together, just do the steps in the reverse order that I've shown here, and hopefully your new speaker works well.